Hey everybody. I'm really glad to be connecting with you all today, even though it's remotely. I just want to reach out again and say whatever you need right now, please do keep in touch. I've been really appreciating your emails and your calls and your text messages. Um, and even if I don't have answers for what's going on, I hope I can at least point you in a direction where you may be able to have answers or get some clarification. Also, this is a very difficult time right now, and I'm very appreciative of that. And so, please be good to yourselves and please take care. We are going to do a very brief discussion today of Joanne Beard's The Fourth State of Matter. This is the last essay for your rhetorical analysis unit. You can use this essay or one of the other three pieces to write your paper on. So if you're planning on writing about Joanne Beard, please read the essay before you actually watch this clip. Now, the first thing I want to do, and I'm sorry it might be a little bit hard to see this all, but I want to go over some basic elements of this essay. I would normally spend a lot of class time on this essay. It's one of my favorite pieces of writing. It's one of my favorite essays, and I think that it has a timeliness now like it did when it was written in 1996. So as apologetic as I feel for assigning this right now with all that is going on, I know this is a hard essay to read, but I also think it's important to read it because it gives us a context in a lot of ways for how people can cope with very difficult situations that have a lot of grief in them. Let's jump right in. Again, if I were writing my rhetorical analysis on this paper or on this essay, I would be thinking of the things that I'm going to briefly mention. The first of which is the threads here. We've got dogs, squirrels, husband, work, science. We start the piece with the sick collie. We know on the first page there are squirrels in the attic and they are making Joanne Beard crazy. We know her husband has left. He's the absent husband. We know she works at a university. She works with science, but she is not a scientist. And then we know a little bit about just science in general. We know about plasma, we know about the cosmos because it comes up throughout. Now, let's talk about these threads a little bit. First thing to notice is this is a braided lyrical essay. What that means is it's true. It is creative nonfiction. Everything in these pages happened, and we trust Beard on that because she's telling us that this happened. These threads, though, come and go throughout. Some of the threads only become more apparent as the essay goes on. For example, starting with the sick dog in the opening, we start with a dream. The first paragraph, the collie wakes me up about 3 times a night, summoning me from a great distance as I row my boat through a dim, complicated dream. We already get darkness and a contrast of dark and light here. We get this whole ephemeral world of the dreamscape. We start in the dream and we see Beard taking us into reality. So we get the dogs. We get that the dog is dying. We get tonally that something isn't good. Now, thinking about these threads, which of these is the most urgent? Which is the most important in this essay? One way to consider this is which of the threads has the most space on the page? Which does Beard write about most? You'll notice that we get the school shooting later. We don't even see Gang Lu introduced, the shooter, until a quarter way through this long essay. Why on earth would Beard hold off on telling us that until later on? Is it okay for us to say that the most important thread in this piece, or the most prominent thread, isn't actually the shooting? Is it okay that it might be a sick dog, or an absent husband, or even those damn squirrels in the attic? How do we feel about that? Is that an okay balance to have in an essay? Keep in mind the scope here. The scope of this essay was a week in Joanne Beard's life. It took place in 1991, though the essay was written 5 years later. We should look at some stylistic elements here. We know that Beard chose present tense. Why on earth choose present tense, especially knowing she waited years to write this? She chose present tense perhaps because it's more immediate, taking us into the moment of everything falling apart, into that charged scene with the shooting. We have to hang there with her. We don't get the luxury of going into the future or reminiscing on the past. So there is an immediacy she establishes by using the present tense. We do get future touchdown points tonally at some times, but they're not very often in the essay, and they come a little bit later. We get also dialogue. I know we talked a little bit in mother tongue and si habla español about how dialogue is used in writing. Why use dialogue here? Why not just summarize? You'll see a lot of examples in here for looking rhetorically of dialogue where there's italicizing in it. For example, I'm on page 8 right now, where she's talking to Chris. I wish my dog was out tearing up the town and my husband was home sleeping on a blanket, I say. So we get in that scene those two emphatic words, showing the dog and the husband, showing Beard's take on the situation just through something as simple as italicizing. Now, you also will notice that this is a lyrically braided essay. The word essay comes from the French essayer, to try. In an essay, we try to make sense of an event or a situation or a person. We try to understand it. We try to process it. So here, we've got a lyrically braided essay with all of these different threads, and we can see Joanne Beard trying to make sense of them and using the actual physical layout of the essay to do so. Notice Gang Lu isn't introduced until a quarter way, and we don't actually get a description of him until about the halfway point, where we see his expressionless eyes. Very careful wording there. That might be a place you point out if you're writing your rhetorical analysis essay, of her use of details, of very concrete physical details to help reinforce what she's writing about. Now, jumping around, what about the tone here? We've got a serious tone, definitely at times. We've got a tragic tone. This is a heavy essay. A lot of people die in this essay. But we also have humor here. We've got this beauty queen up in Beard's attic trying to catch squirrels. She brings Beard zucchini. I laughed. The first time I read this essay, I laughed. But is that okay? Is it okay to laugh in an essay about, that at least in some ways, is about a mass tragedy? Think also, why would Beard include this levity here? Maybe it would be too much if we didn't have it. Maybe the essay would just be too hard to read and to understand if we didn't have a touchdown moment of levity. Also, keep in mind, what do squirrels in the attic represent metaphorically? When you've got squirrels in your attic, you're losing your mind, you're going crazy. Why zucchini? Why would this beauty queen bring her a zucchini? Might it be phallic? Might it refer back to the husband? Who knows? Maybe not. It's true, so it might just be a zucchini. Now, title. We talk a lot about title. We've talked about it in a couple of the pieces, and I really loved your titles you wrote on your literacy narratives. Titles do a lot of work. The fourth state of matter. What the hell does that mean? Why that, of all the things? You should know the answer if you read this. The fourth state of matter is plasma. It is a state of matter that does not change. It is not solid, liquid, or gas. Plasma is present in blood. Why blood? What does blood mean in context of this essay? Now jumping to audience. There are a lot of audiences I could think would be potential audiences for this piece. The first of which, keep in mind, is The New Yorker. It's a national publication that features nonfiction, fiction, poetry, all kinds of writing. It has a pretty liberal slant. So it originally appeared there. It also has been republished in many journals and anthologies since then. Might the audience be college students? Might it be the general public? Might it be anyone in the last years who has had to suffer through a profoundly traumatic event? Going then into the purpose. We can't know what Beard's purpose was, but we can guess, or at least speculate. Was it to expose a situation at a university? Was it to inform us about what can go wrong when you're at work? Was it to entertain? Is that even appropriate to say that this was an entertaining piece about a school shooting? Was it to process an event and cope? Again, we go back to essay, to try. Maybe Beard was trying to cope with something and was unable to do so, and she needed to write this essay to help her through it. A couple of the themes we noticed, and we can talk about the language reinforcing them. We've got grief, loss, mourning, powerlessness, and suspension in time. Where specifically do you find evidence in the text for these themes? How can you cite it? How can you introduce it to the reader? You can do that through your specific concrete details with support. You can do that through your signal phrase in the beginning of your essay, where you introduce Joanne Beard, you introduce the title of the essay, and then you tell us what part of the rhetorical analysis you are going to focus on. Maybe you're focusing on specific sentence level language that reinforce the themes of powerlessness. Maybe you notice the shift when we get to the shooting, where she uses short staccato sentences to talk about Gang Lu coming into her university. Those are all valid things to write about. Very briefly, we have the appeals, and I know you're going to be writing about the appeals for homework, so I don't want to go into a lot of detail here. But if you do decide to write about this essay, you'll need to have all three of these present in your rhetorical analysis paper. Ethos, trustworthiness, credentials, authority. How does Beard establish her ethos? Why do we trust her? Not just because it's true, but how does she show us that she knows what she's talking about throughout? Pathos, emotional appeals. I think this is probably going to be the one you are most likely to find support for, because there's a lot of emotion, especially with the sick dogs, the squirrels in the attic, and the missing husband. That doesn't mean there's not emotion when we get to work and there's the awful school shooting, but we do get that delivered very barely. So that is a rhetorical decision Beard made. Logos, logic, reason, facts. Going back to the title, why call it the fourth state of matter? What does that fact establish? How does it inform our reading? Those are the main things that I wanted to point out today. I know that this was sort of a crash course on Beard, and I appreciate you bearing with me. The next post I'll be doing is about ethos, pathos, and logos. But for now, please use this as a scaffolding to help you think of this essay. And please do reach out if you have questions or if any of this was unclear. And the last thing today is I will leave you with a clip of my dog, who is now with my other dog, patiently watching me talk to myself. That is Bandit and that is Mango, and they are going to have some cheese. Stay good, everybody. Take care.